Ilya, welcome to the Espresso series. I'm delighted, ladies and gentlemen, to have Ilya from Hayreach. I'm not going to do the introduction. I'm going to let Ilya do that because he's a man of great experience and he's been working with, I would regard as one of the best early stage startups that I've come across, and I've worked with a few as well. So I'm absolutely delighted to have you on this little show of ours. Ilya, can you just give us a quick introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why do you do it?
John, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me. That's number one. Number two, I always enjoy having interview with friends. But either way, I know that pretty much I'll try to share as much value because, we did a couple of things. Let's put it that way. So for the ones who don't know me, I am Iija Stojkovski. If you read out my name out loud, probably your desk, I start floating. I am the CRO at Hayreach. And for the ones who don't know what Hayreach is, we are a LinkedIn automation tool that offers LinkedIn scalability for users and orchestration of the LinkedIn outbound altogether. Why am I here? It's because, I guess it's a funny story. Just because I am the person who went in this startup from $0 from product development, meaning I didn't develop it, but I gave input to developers, from zero revenue, to 6 million in just under of 2 years in revenue. So I think I have some things to share because it was quite a journey. We all enjoyed it, met great people along the way, such as the one that I'm meeting today. And yes, that's all about me.
Thank you for that. You've got an impressive journey. Just really quickly, though, I mean, last month, I believe, it's even more impressive. Do you want to just quickly share a little bit about that, just so people have got even more richer context about the a phenomenal growth of Hayreach?
In a month span, we've added 1 million in ARR. That was what's amazing. So 30 days ago, we were at 5. Now we are at 6. Now, let me give a breakthrough a little bit, right? So the 6 million journey, meaning, and as I like to call it, it's a 6 million mile journey. It's not just a dollars journey. So pretty much when we launched the product itself, we were struggling to find our place under the sun, if you like to call it. We've tried everything. We were in a red ocean. There were 2,000 competitors already, established ones. We offered sort of a competitive advantage about the multiple orchestration, but that was one of the core feature set that we have in place. And then it took us approximately 9 months to hit our first million. Million number 1 to million number 2, that thing took us around 5 months, give or take. So you can imagine that the first million is something that it's unachievable. It's nothing that you've dreamed of. It's just some distant thing, like a distant object, distant shiny object that it looks like you're never going to get to it. Once you get to it, now you're thinking, wow, we've actually did it, and you're overwhelmed on things. But when you're moving down the path, you understand, okay, I can make a habit out of this one. Number 2 was pretty much an evidence that number 1 was never a mistake or a luck. It was actually that we are onto something. Number 3 actually came naturally. Nothing really happened away. Number 4, number 5, and now how you are finding your product market fit, the time between 1, 2, 2, 3 shrinks obviously until we got to a position where 5 to 6 is, roughly 29 days, give or take. And interesting fact, along this way, we didn't do any, and we are still not doing any of the typical marketing activities that you will find all gurus on Instagram proposing that you should most definitely do ads, that you should most definitely do outbound, and that you should most definitely do SEO and content and put everything in one place. So we did none of that. So yeah.
Hey, this is absolutely impressive. And I think this is a nice segue into some of the questions. I'm absolutely certain most people will be really curious to learn how, because you've obviously cracked something there that's really working for you. So I think, and without further ado, I'm going to dive into some of these will be a little bit, let's say, spiky questions, but I think it's important that we ask these and give the listeners as much information about what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I'm always interested in, and it sounds like you guys have done this extremely well, is in the sales process, in that discovery, because you talked about, the product market fit, the ICP being all important. And so what I'm hearing you say there is about actually being really good at your discovery process and being able to kind of dive into that in order to be able to have more of those really right fit customers coming into your sales pipeline and closing them. So just on that then, let's just get into it. If you could only ask 3, maybe 2 questions in your entire sales process, what are they typically?
I would like to make a parallel over here between a sales process and having a doctor's appointment. Majority of the mistakes that are made nowadays are, well, let me tell you who am I. Meaning, in a doctor's parallel, it's like take this medication. And that's quite different. Now, the real question is, like, if you analyze like a doctor's appointment, the first question that the doctor asks is, where does it hurt? Meaning, what's your pain? Meaning, like, if we are having this meeting and you opt in a one way or another to be part of it, what's your current problem? And that correlates with the solution that I'm having in place. First question, number 1, is where does it hurt? Second question that follows up is the timing right now, spend money and time to solve this problem. Now, if it isn't, when do you think it's the most applicable time and date in the future to be? Meaning, like, are you willing to invest? Are you willing to change? Because if you're not ready now, all good, there is no point in pushing. And number 3 is what are you going to take? Now, this is really dependent on the service that is being offered, whether there should be a commitment from the other side. In our case, because it's a SaaS product, obviously there has to be a commitment and actions to be taken. Now, the last question is, who is going to help you overcome this problem? Is it you? Do you have the time? Or is it someone else? Do they have the knowledge? And when you get answers to these all 3 questions, you pretty much can set up, as I like to call it, sorry, I'm missing the word. Diagnose, right? So when you set up a diagnose, well, it's quite easy to prescribe a medication, to send them to a specialist, to send them to whatever it is, because you know where it hurts, you know that this is the time to be done, and you know what type of, what can be expected from the other end. So in my thought process, those are the 3 crucial questions on any conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. Then that leads me to ask this question. What's the one discovery question that consistently makes prospects say, no one's ever asked me that before? Have you ever had that circumstance?
Well, from my perspective, it was always because still it's a competitive market, right? So it's not, we are into the outbound space where a lot of tools are being generated, a lot of services are out there and so on and so forth. The biggest question right now, the biggest wow question that I got was me asking the clients, what's wrong with the current outputs that you guys are having? And everyone else is like, well, nobody really asked me that because everyone else is saying me how their process is better than mine, but nobody actually understands what's wrong with me right now. So yeah, that was my go-to question.
That's actually a really good one. Fundamentally, what you're saying there is, put yourself in the customer's shoes.
Hear before you speak.
Yeah, so exactly. And place it there. So don't pitch, listen. Listen very closely and ask them, and it kind of goes back to your earlier point about aligning it to what their problem is to be able to diagnose a decent solution for them.
John, let me tell you a funny story real quick, and I'm going to interrupt the process a little bit. So at the very beginning, it's easy for me now to say like all of these smart things. But then again, the thing was when we just started off, my speak time on the meeting was roughly 42 minutes on a 45-minute meeting, right? So now, in the meantime, I actually conducted in a 16 months, I did 2,500 meetings. Like that was a bull rush and all of that. And when I analyzed my last meeting, it was like 17 minutes. Their speak time was around 14 minutes and I was only speaking 3 minutes. That was all there is, right? Now you can imagine like the activity of that prospect and this prospect. Obviously the one with 42 minutes of listening was actually the one being followed up. The prospect of 14 minutes of listening, he was actually following up with me when we are ready to kick things off. You see the difference? Because when you listen, this is where you learn. And when you learn, you can be a much better talker. You can be a much better advice giver. So yeah.
Active listening.
Active listening. That's all there is.
Then walk me through just one of those instances where you would know whether you've won or lost a deal.
The conversation kickstarts, right? I always started with an opener. The opener was, "Hello, everyone. My name is Ilya, and please don't try to pronounce my last name. It was a joke. By the way, I'm the worst salesperson that you will ever meet." And they're like, "Okay, hold on. Well, the reason I'm saying that is because I will never follow up with you. And I will never hunt you. Not that I don't want you or I don't need your money. It's because I don't have time to do that. So everything that I'm going to say here, feel free to pop any questions, but please listen carefully. That's all I'm asking from you in the next 25 minutes, if that's okay." And everyone is, well, of course. Now, when you're starting to digging out the process, like when you are exploring what's wrong, where does it hurt, and all of that I've mentioned before, then you start to understand, well, people are basically engaging, right? Engaging with this, engaging with that. And by the end of it, there has to be a next step and a next action, what needs to take place. For me, it was, listen, depending on how the conversation went, you need to follow up with me about specific requirements. So I always ended up, you have to follow up with me. Now, if I receive that follow-up email from them, listen, point one, point two, whatever the points are. If I receive that follow-up email like in 48 hours, I knew that the deal was closed, right? But if I received that after, I don't know, 2 weeks, I know that this really became something that we are not going to do now. And funny story, in the meantime, I did a LinkedIn post about that. I'm receiving that type of emails. They're going from a person that I've met 1.5 coming to me back when they're saying, "I'm ready, let's kick things off." So there are surprises along the way. But if the email is received in 48 hours, that deal is closed. Like there is nothing to it, really.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm just going to pause a little bit, Ilya. You might need to just come a little bit closer to the mic because it was doing a little bit of thing. Don't worry, I'll edit out all this stuff.
Okay.
That's actually quite contrary to what most people would be advising. But that's a very interesting take and something I'd love to come back to at another point. But what you've popped another thought process in my head, which is this, because you were talking, because I'm obviously curious about your growth and how you've done that. So in your experience, and particularly at Hayreach, a discovery technique, or that you've come across, that's taken your close rate from, a small amount to this significant growth, and you're closing a lot more. Is there one discovery technique that does that, or that's a unicorn?
I don't know. How should I put this? Because, well, the whole idea of when I was conducting meetings, and well, I'm still am, obviously to a smaller extent, is that I just want to make this meeting memorable for them. So you can imagine if you are having 2,500 meetings, how exhausting that thing can be, and it requires a lot of resources. But then again, if you make it memorable, regardless of how the conversation goes, these people will always log in their head. Like for me, it was when I need a LinkedIn tool, I know that Ilya is there and Hayreach is there. And that's all I need to know, right? Because you have 25 minutes, you have 30 minutes. What else can you do, right? So there is no playbook, and I honestly don't believe in any type of playbooks. Everything that I am advising, when you have the opportunity to talk with your ideal prospect, regardless of whether you will close this deal now or in 2 years, have to make that meeting memorable, just because, well, this is how you pretty much plant the seed that you exist and this should be used at some point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Then based on some of those points, then, have you ever been through your processes that you've just explained, where your discovery or your engagement with the prospect was just that good? The prospect basically sold themselves to you.
Of course. Come on, John. We are talking about a problem that you are having on a meeting that you agreed to come, right? Now, I have to do a really terrible job to make your experience so bad, so you decide, well, I'm not going to continue with this one, right? So that not just makes me a terrible salesperson, it makes me a terrible person altogether. Like, how do you mess up such a good opportunity at the end of the day, right? So long story short, I don't know. Once you have those three, where does it hurt? When does it, what are you planning to do about it? And is there anyone to help you with it? Like, that's all there is. Like, this is where you create like that environment of, I'm going to remember this one.
Relationship matters.
Doesn't it?
If I could sum it up, that's basically it. But I want to just switch tack a little bit here and do some rapid fire finishes because we've
Sure.
only got a few more minutes left. In 30 seconds or less, what's the biggest discovery red flag that means you should actually walk away from it?
People not showing interest. So not showing interest, meaning and sometimes you will end up in a situation where you have a champion bringing the decision maker to a meeting, or you have a decision maker because his champions or his people were yapping about it all the time. So if you are a person who I'm here to listen just for the sake of it, and this is where I usually even stop the meeting. And I go with something like, well, listen, I know that this is not the thing that you guys are looking to implement right now. It will be a waste of time for both of us. Let's reconnect at a later stage when, well, this actually could mean a thing for you. So the interest is like the number one thing for it.
And it's very honest too, which I think is extremely important and often not disclosed enough or that's probably not the right word, but we often don't talk about that enough, about the importance of that level of honesty, transparency, and integrity in the process. Yeah, because it's all about relationships.
From time to time, I get on meetings that I'm being approached on just to analyze the person that I'm talking with, right? And I can always notice the same pattern. All of these guys have a script next to them, and all of these guys have a template that it's proven to be working from a person 10 years ago, but obviously it's not anymore. But then again, they just stick to it because they don't know any better. And obviously, I just get the same thing. Let me tell you about me, and let me tell you about why now. And you're like, well, you don't know whether, but yeah, either way.
So, which is actually then for the people listening in who want to emulate the kind of successes that Hayreach has delivered, and particularly young folks that are coming into the game. What's the one piece of advice around discovery or any of the process that you would want to share with them that you think actually this is the one bit that is important to consider?
Get as much intel about the person that you're about to meet as much as you can. Don't disclose those intels in front of that person. Just use that to ask very tailor-made questions about the prospect or about the person that you are just meeting. Sales is not about closing. Sales is about trusting. You want to meet a person which you will trust, and once the bond of trust is made, whatever it is that you pitch at them, they will buy it because they trust you in the first place as a person, as a product. Now, don't rush into things regardless of who says what and regardless of your KPI. If you're just starting off, train yourself to listen, train yourself to discover, and train yourself to pop the right relevant questions for you for what you are about to say. That's it.
Ilya, actually, that is a absolutely brilliant piece of advice. I want to say thank you very much. Congratulations on your impressive growth and success. And thank you even more so for spending 20 odd minutes of dispensing these pearls of wisdom. Ilya, thank you.
It was my pleasure, John, and I would love to get together again next time.